And good morning, everyone. This is Ned Parks with Aegis 360 Consulting, and you've logged in or you're logging in and listening to or watching one of our 30-minute pop-up webinars that we are producing and putting on, and we're delighted you're here. Today, I have a guest with me, and I'll introduce him in just a minute. We are running a series of these, so you can take a look at our website. We have a page there on the webinars. We have both 30-minute and 1-hour webinars that we're running. Today is one of our 30-minute pop-ups. And the title is The Difference Between Discussion, Debate, and Dialogue, How to Use It to Build Healthy Workplaces. Well, if we haven't had a lot of discussion, debate, and dialogue recently, I don't know when we have. It's been a little crazy. Let me introduce my guest who's going to be leading us through this discussion. My great friend, who I've known for many, many years now, Andrew Sanderbeck from the mountains of North Carolina. He's just over there, just a little bit west of Asheville. Andrew has his company down there, PCI Webinars. As you can see, he does about 150 live webinars a year. And they do it primarily for the library world, but also for organizations all over. And he hosts both businesses, libraries, everything else. He's been at it for years. There's his contact information there. Certainly, if you have any interest in anything that Andrew does or you want to go check out his website, I would encourage you to do so. Since 30 minutes goes quick, as Andrew and I both know, doing this, Andrew, I'm going to turn things over to you and let you share your screen, and welcome and thank you. And let's have a nice discussion.
All right, Ned, thanks very much. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the program here. And as Ned has mentioned, we are going to be taking a look at, I think, a pretty lively topic, and maybe, as Ned was talking as well, pretty timely with regards to these different communication techniques and tools and frames and how we can use them. So let's go ahead and dive in, and I can start off by telling you that really this program is about framing our conversations. And depending on the conversation we are having, it could be about winning or winning an idea. It could be about exploring ideas. I think the main thing for us to remember is, number one, the difference between these three, but also just looking at what really is helping us to build relationships with each other. And as I go through these, I will tell you that as I did the research for this and as I started to learn more about this, I was very surprised that I actually had the definitions messed up. I really believed that what was technically a dialogue was a discussion, and it was kind of eye-opening, and maybe it'll be a little eye-opening for everybody today as well. But looking at the difference here in participation and relationship building, to me, it is really part of the goal. When I talk about framing, just to be clear, I want you to think about the metaphor, in essence, behind the concept. Meaning that if we were to take a look at artwork, that a frame, in essence, focuses attention on the painting that it surrounds. So different frames will draw out different aspects of the work. If I were to put a painting in a red frame, that would bring out, in essence, the red in the work. If I were to put the same painting in a blue frame, it would bring out the blue. So how someone frames an issue will influence how others see it and really where they're going to focus their attention. So framing, in my mind, is the essence of targeting our communication to a specific audience. And the more that I've learned about framing, I kind of think, gosh, this seems like a pretty straightforward concept. But the reality is I don't do it very well. And I have continued to practice this and learn in the hopes of doing it better, especially if I'm looking at managing a team, if I'm leading an organization. There are going to be times we need to have conversations where people do not agree, that hold different beliefs. And really how we focus this conversation and frame the conversation is going to have a great impact on just how successful those conversations are going to be.
So Andrew, you're saying it starts at the very beginning of the conversation.
Sure.
Not,
I mean,
Can we go back and reframe later? I mean, if we get in there and the wheels start coming off the bus, can we reframe it?
We can, and I'm going to share some different techniques, Ned, on how we can. And not only reframing a conversation, meaning others, but reframing ourselves as well. Because there are times that I may fall off the bus, per se, and really go into a debate mode when really that's not helping the situation, and it's certainly not helping us to come to a conclusion. Now, I want to be clear, Ned, I'm not saying there aren't times that we should debate, because there are.
Okay.
If my goal is to win, or if my goal is to argue that I have the one and only right answer, or that my belief system is what I'm sticking to, and I'm gonna find your flaw, and we see this all the time in debate, but there are times I'm going to use this tool. All I want us to consider is that this is not normally a tool to build relationships. This is a tool to say, I'm right and you're wrong, and I'm going to show you how wrong you are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, there could be something that I want to stand up for, and I'm going to take that stance.
Okay.
I'm just going to suggest this isn't going to be the way to build relationships overall if this is the only approach we're going to take. So
Okay.
debate, in essence, is a verbal fight. And then this one really surprised me when I started to do the research, that a discussion is actually called a soft debate. You see, I thought a discussion was just Ned and I are talking. And well, actually, it's actually a little deeper than that. So discussion has to do with where we're really focused on making our assertions within the validity of our own beliefs within whatever that topic may be. So once again, a very useful tool. This could be a common frame to use in brainstorming sessions, idea sessions, one-on-ones, certainly meetings. Okay. Once again, I'll go back to, was it the best technique to use? Maybe it was. But where I want to guide you to is looking at dialogue. And dialogue here is simply listening with an open spirit. So I don't have a goal to win. There's no set idea about assertions I'm going to make. It's about just listening with an open mind and asking questions to seek understanding. And Ned knows that I'm a huge fan of Dr. Covey's work in 7 Habits. And it's funny how this leads me back to one of Covey's habits, which is to seek first to understand and then to be understood.
Right.
So simply by giving you the space for you to share your belief, how you feel about a topic, and not to debate you, not to assert what I believe, but simply just to listen with that open spirit. The hope is that in return, that you will give me that space as well. And so this really got me thinking about, well, how do I handle different conversations? How do I handle idea sessions? And I must share this with you guys. This is actually my daughter. My daughter started me on this topic because she attended a presentation at the University of Florida. She is a veterinary school student, off campus, of course, right now. And she went to see this conversation about this topic. And she really just kind of set me on fire when she said, I had a really great aha moment here, which is that I tend to debate people. And she said, I don't really discuss. I just want to prove that I'm right and you're wrong. And she said it was such an aha moment for me on how I was really hurting relationships. And I wasn't really open to what other people had to say. So I hope another takeaway for today for those listening is that we raise your awareness, because to me, everything in life starts with awareness.
Right.
And I was just like, wow, Steph, it's so funny, Ned, how our kids continue to teach us.
Oh, yeah.
Just amazing.
Yeah.
So what I want you guys to think about is, how are you reacting to some of these conversations? What frame do you tend to take? And I could walk you through the list. What frame do your colleagues tend to take? What frame, if you're not the boss, does your boss take? Or if you are the boss, what about the clients that you have, your customers? Do we find people that easily go into debate? Or do we find people that really are more interested in dialogue with us? And so a technique to share here is called, how might that be true? And I, Ned knows me pretty well. I love ripping ideas apart. I think it's kind of fun.
Yeah, he does.
And I think
He
it can
does.
be healthy as well.
Absolutely.
Um, right. So, I'll beat up and pressure test ideas all the time.
Yeah, you
But
call
the
Andrew with
idea,
an idea. You call Andrew with an idea. Say, I have this idea. You've thought about it. You've spent windshield time with it. You throw it to Andrew, and then he just beats the living daylights out of it. You go, man, I got to rethink that one. But that's the beauty of it.
right. And that's actually one of the reasons that I love these phone calls that Ned and I have. You just called me last week and
Yeah.
we're going through an idea. The idea here, first of all, and I really want to point everybody then to the last line. This is not about attacking the person. This is simply about testing the idea. And this is where I think we can get in trouble if it becomes a debate. I think it can get personal if it becomes too much of a I want to prove my point type thing. But certainly let's look at, could this be true? And then that gets me over the hump of maybe being stuck in my own belief or stuck in some type of my way or the highway type thinking. And also, as I've noted there, that it really does build rapport in what we do. So if you find yourself getting into more of a debate frame or more of a discussion frame and you want to shift, then how might that be true? So start to become curious, start to seek to understand, okay? And as I've noted there, park your doubting mind for the moment, okay? Because the truth is, I may think it's a terrible idea, but Ned and I don't have conversations for me to judge the idea.
Right.
You
Right.
have conversations to look at this idea, look at the pluses, look at what might be the minuses, and to just get a better understanding of where each of us are coming from. But I go back to the bottom line. It's never about attacking the person. Maybe it's just an idea that I don't agree with, and that's okay. So what about if you're in a discussion with others and you're finding that maybe things are getting a little too heated? Maybe you're finding that people just really all they want to do is just tell you that you're wrong, or maybe that it's just about people who just want to assert their points of view, and that's not really where you want the conversation to go. Then I can give you some different things here to kind of work with. So I've got 3 questions that can help you shift the conversation to dialogue. And actually, I would call them 2 questions and a statement, but that's okay. So, what is it that you see that I don't? Because you're going to see something differently that I don't. And maybe I'm not understanding what it is that you see differently than me. Well, how do you see this differently and why? And help me understand this from your perspective. Now, I did put down there on the bottom line that sometimes it can get just too personal. And there are some different things we can do here to kind of break that loop a little bit. Maybe put it up on a whiteboard. Maybe it is that people just aren't feeling heard in the conversation right now. And what is it that we can do to help people, in essence, to feel a little bit more heard as these different ideas are being explored?
Andrew, you talk about putting it on a whiteboard, and I do a ton of facilitation, and group dynamics is interesting. And I always find that when we put it on a flip chart or a whiteboard and we direct people's attention to the board, you see that emotions begin to drop. As I like to say, it's really difficult to be mad at a whiteboard. I can be
Yeah.
really mad at you, but it's really difficult to be mad at a whiteboard. And so it's fascinating because you get everybody to stop looking at each other and their view change, and they look at something. They can still disagree with it, but it
Right.
changes the emotional temperature in the room. It's absolutely fascinating to watch.
And I do think that we should add here that there are times too that it may be best just to walk away. It may be best just to say, we're just a little bit too heated on this one right now. and let's take a step back in what we're doing. We've got plenty of time for questions, Ned. That if we have any in that chat area, go ahead and put them in. One of the challenges I want to put out to you is to start to think about the situations that you have going on in your work environments where there are going to be disagreement, where there are going to be different ideas that are presented that we're going to need to discuss. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I'd like to see in the chat area is, what are things that you've heard people say when a new idea is discussed, or maybe when a old idea is brought up again, that just kill the conversation?
Yeah, conversation
what are
killers
things?
or idea
Yeah,
killers. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. What are things that you've heard people say that just kill the conversation? If you could type that in.
I just heard one with a client here about a month and a half ago. I wanted to punch him. We've always done it this way before. Oh yeah, or we've always done it that way, right? That's one that we love, or we've never done it that way. That won't work is one that I like to hear all the time, or I don't like to hear it, but I do hear it. We tried it, it didn't work. Absolutely. Thanks, Mike. It's interesting. I've been doing a lot of work in design thinking, and one of the tenets of design thinking on the brainstorming side is they actually move, when they teach it, they actually move in to teach a little bit of framework around improv and the tenets of the comedy interaction of improv. And one of the tenets is everything is a yes. It's a yes and. You never stop the flow of the conversation. And I took a improv workshop, and no matter what was brought to you, you had to go with it. You couldn't go against it. So in one of the role plays that I was in, I was working with this other young lady, and she was a car salesman and I was a buyer. That was the setup. And I went in to pretend like I was buying a car, and she said, well, we have this great car over here with square wheels. Now, if that's not a stopper in a conversation, I don't know what would be. But the rule was you had to go with it. So I had to say, square wheels, that's fantastic. I wonder what the car will drive like, And then she went off on this whole tangent about it would knock loose your fillings, and then you could spend more money at the dentist. I mean, this ridiculous conversation. But it was really a great teacher for me as a facilitator, and working with groups about the yes and kind of model. And design thinking is very much about that. There's they use a feedback framework called I like, I wonder. You have to say two things you like about the idea, and then something you wonder about that idea that would take it forward. It's really fascinating to watch it work. So it keeps that conversation going, whatever we're calling it.
Yeah. Yes, and is such a powerful tool to use with that. And another one that came to mind was, not only we tried it and it did not work, or it won't work.
It just won't work.
Just right off the bat, it won't work.
Right. Nobody's going to do that. People aren't going to like that.
And it's like, wow, because I always go to, all right, well, how do you follow up that comment? Where do you go from there? That's like when people say, I know. When you're trying to talk to them, oh, I know. I know.
So Andrew, help me a little bit with this whole piece of, you tell me that 3 + 3 is 127. Well, you are wrong, and it's not. 3 + 3 is 6, and that's a fact, and we know that. So that moves then into debate, I guess. And where do we go with that? I mean, there's a time when we have to stand our ground on some things. When there's times when people actually are wrong.
Agreed. And that may be where we would have to shift more into debate mode.
Okay.
Where I'm really I'm blowing up your 3 + 3 or my 3 + 3.
Right.
And saying, you know what, here's why that's wrong. And here's point 1, here's point 2, here's point 3. But I think that where that gets troublesome is, what if you just have somebody who's in denial?
Well, I think sometimes that's where we do end up walking away. It's just, I just can't even talk to this person anymore.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, because they believe the earth is flat,
right,
and
right,
you can't have that discussion,
right, right,
you know,
exactly.
so there's a walk away.
They,
And
yeah. Well, and
w-
then, and Mike put something in here about name calling, and it made me think of it starts getting personal. It's no
yep,
longer factual. It's and that the age old, and Lord knows who said it originally, but it doesn't matter. Be hard on the problem, not on the person. It's an easy thing to say. It's much harder to actually do, because your emotions do get involved. We are human beings. We have to recognize that. I'm not a robot. I'm not Dr. Spock. I can't look at things without emotions because I have them. I had a friend teach me one time that we're emotional beings with intellectual thoughts. And I
mhm,
never forgot that. At whatever level we're at, emotions kind of drive the train at some level. And for some people, they keep them in check a little bit more, or at least apparently they keep them in check. And for others, they wear them more on their sleeve. We see them a little quicker. But then when it starts to get personal, that's when things can really become problematic in this. So let's talk a little bit about, I was fascinated with debate. I think I got my head wrapped around. Could we talk just briefly about that difference between dialogue and discussion? There seems to be a nuance there.
yeah, there is, and I really think the nuance here is that if I'm in discussion with you, it's still about me asserting my points. It's me asserting my beliefs,
Yeah.
and I'm still doing my best to establish what I believe is true. Where in dialogue, I don't need to do that. I am simply just listening. I am simply just understanding your point of view. And one of the things, Ned, that I found really interesting that a lot of these authors don't talk about, who have written on this, is we can go back and forth from discussion to dialogue to debate all within one conversation.
Oh, interesting. I guess we could, couldn't we? I mean, I didn't think
Yeah,
about it, but yeah, I mean, it's not like a bright line that we flip a switch and move from one to the other.
right. There may be, there may be something going on in part of this conversation where it is about us going ahead and just laying on the table what we believe.
Right. Right.
Okay, good. All right. So then I still look at where are we going from there? What are we going to do with that?
I
So are we going to keep it in a discussion mode, or are we going to look at exploring others' ideas more?
right.
Are we going to look at the pluses and minuses of the different ideas that are out there? And so to me, the big difference is exploration. We're now exploring more of the ideas versus just saying, well, this is what I believe, this is what you believe, this is what she believes. Okay, well, that's all good. But I still go to where are we going from there?
Oh,
And
Andrew,
yeah.
a great question just came in on the question and answer side. Do you have suggestions on how to keep emotions out of the discussion or debate for yourself and others, other than taking a deep breath and pausing?
Um, well, I like deep breaths, no doubt. I, I, for me, I go to remembering that this isn't about me. This is just about the conversation that I'm having. With others, we may need to just call out the behavior and say, you know what, this is getting personal, and this is not personal. We're here to debate this, or we're here to whatever, whatever that may be. But this feels like it's getting personal. The other thing I would do is maybe look at a ground rule before you have the conversation,
Okay.
and just say, if we start to see things are getting personal, then anyone here can say, hey, it's getting personal. Let's stop.
Or it
So
doesn't
that
even
might,
have to get personal. It could just be emotional. Maybe I'm
sure,
just really sensitive about this topic.
yeah, right. And then that's a hard one because we all have different levels of emotion regarding a topic.
Right.
So when we sense it's getting uncomfortable, or can we give someone permission to say, hey, you know what, this is getting uncomfortable for me.
Right. Right.
But I think those are rules we need to make up front.
Well, and
Um,
people have triggers, people have triggers about songs, they have triggers about words that can be deep seated for them. And the other person didn't intend to get personal. In fact, in their mind, they weren't, it wasn't at all. And they step onto something. If we have the upfront agreement that we can take a breath, and take a walk, if it will, to, metaphorically or literally, then I think that's very helpful. I like to tell people that you can't set the emotions aside, but you have to work through them. So let's figure out how to work through them. We're not half of human beings. The emotions are a part of us. We don't really have the opportunity to just say, well, I'm just going to turn the emotions off, or you just turn your emotions off. They're real. They're there. And we have to work through them. The question is, how do we do that? And I'll be honest with you, I always like to say that time is your best friend in those situations. Go buy some of it. Go to the bathroom, take a walk, take a break, get a cup of coffee, convene a second meeting 2 days from now, confer with let's play a millionaire and call your Andrew in North Carolina and say, I was really mad on this. Can you help me work through it so I don't get mad on this with Bob again tomorrow? I mean, there's all sorts of things we can do, but I would tell people all the time, and I do tell people, is not to just ignore the fact that the emotions are there. They're real. They're yours. Work through them. If they're inappropriate for the setting, I think we need to call that out. That's for sure. So, listen, go ahead.
Once again, though, Ned, if we're setting boundaries in the beginning, that's going to help to determine what is appropriate and what's not appropriate.
Well, and one of my favorite lines is unagreed to expectations or resentments waiting to happen. So if the expectation is we're going to take a break, when that emotion gets there, then let's take the break. So we're coming up on our 30 minutes. I want to thank everybody for being here. Andrew and I will certainly hang around and ask or answer any other questions or have more conversation, but we're going to bring a wrap to this one. Again, we're running these weekly, and either 30 minutes or the 1 hour. I'm going to do a series. I actually did one last week that was a 30-minute on strategic planning through COVID. And I surprised myself a little bit. I guess I shouldn't have. There was so much interest in it, and there was so much to talk about that I've now turned it into a series of 3 1-hour webinars because there's just so much to do. And so be looking for that. We've already got them set. And we're really going to help people and use some examples of kind of, what do I do here in the moment? How do I transition out of it? And then how do I set myself up for success in the future? So those are coming up, and again, you can go to the website, and they should all be listed on there, and you can get registered. Again, they're all free. Andrew, I can't thank you enough for being here. Appreciate it, and it's always good to see you, my friend, and we'll have to do this on another topic another day.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody.
Stay healthy. Everybody, for being well. Appreciate it. All right.